This project is a series of studies focusing on the separation between long-term residents and transient users in Vauxhall, and Divide intensified the 9M's regeneration project, a range of spatial experiments at different scales, through the perspective of an international student who lives in the area. Let's start by introducing this intangible wall in Vauxhall, or divide culture, ownership and living habits. Vauxhall Park is a place I live in. It lies directly on the dividing line. The Vauxhall Park became one of the few places we communicate and interact with each other. It's also about the differences of temporary living and long-term stay. I only stay here for 3 years maximum as well, as an international student. The image here shows my reading in Vauxhall. It illustrates the shape of an intangible wall along the Vauxhall Park, with the focus of the flow of people, while the rest is ghosted. The image above aims to express the generic phenomena that happen all over the world, while certain moments are documented below that shows what specifically happened in Vauxhall that forms up this intangible wall. In the middle, we have Vauxhall Park here, a place everyone can go during daytime, where the intangible wall only exists in the evening. Then on the left-hand corner here, we have Industrial Warehouse Complex. The fences there clearly mark itself as a private area. Always blocks me to see what all the site looks like, as well as those common space surrounded by buildings here, which separate it from the street. Below here, I use several moments I experienced to document the thickness of the intangible wall. For example, like the warehouse complex that I pass by every day. I still don't know what it looks like on the other side. Or the church that next to my apartment, we're surrounded by tall buildings here. The cafe I usually go in the park is one of the places that you don't really feel the wall. People talk with each other and just sharing the stories, or just showing off their pet dogs. Everyone loves the park, no matter it's a local resident or international student. Then there's few common spaces that pass through on the way to the station. You just can't feel the sense of welcoming in those places, because it's all built in the same natural language of the buildings that makes you feel you don't belong there. Or even the wide road will mark the edge of the regeneration projects. It's visually and mentally become a barrier, a buffer zone that splits the resident. As a continued exploration of intangible in Vauxhall, from my individual perspective, I delve into a shared space student dormitory, where it's supposed to be a place for students to interact. But since the student hall is designed to be separated, we don't actually communicate with each other in the daily life. The furniture placed for group activities there become useless. A furniture piece is designed to criticize this phenomenon. It's a pantry which combined with a collection of functions, but cannot be activated unless they use a certain amount of keys that hold by each of them. The required numbers of keys for each function is linked to the numbers of people they usually have in the activity. For example, for one people, the pantry can only transform into a stool or clothes rack. But when there's more people coming in, the furniture will be able to transform as a kitchen table, which encourages people to communicate with each other during the daily activities. Just like how they activated the medium-sized table here for the food preparation. When there's more than 3 people, the pantry can be transformed into a hotpot table, where the making setup process is difficult without helping each other's hand. There's so many things you can do with the pantry, but without enough numbers of people and their keys, it's just a pantry with a weird looking. In order to use limited pieces to create various iterations, most of the wood pieces use joint structure to assemble, which can easily connect and disconnect. The graph here shows the functions that pantry can transform to, and the numbers of keys it needs to get activated, as well as how the dimensions of the pantry in relation to the size of human. As the experimental furniture as a critique of an intangible wall between students in the student dormitory, through the perspective of an international student. A reasonable question: how can the architect respond to the divisions in Vauxhall at an architectural scale? A pavilion is designed to explore the possibility of using a multi-purpose communal space to connect long-term residents and transient residents. With 13 movable columns and adjustable net grid, the space can be transformed into different shapes according to different numbers of people for different purpose. It continues the key concept from the furniture, but instead of using physical keys, it relies on time and numbers of people. The structure can only be moved for 5 minutes in each 30 minutes, so people need to choose the types of shape that suits the size of the group, instead of doing whatever they want. Since it's not a fixed structure, people don't come with a straight purpose. It encourages different people to join into the building process. Residents communicate, share and arrange space together during the transformation. The project doesn't end in building a pavilion in the park. Instead, it proposes a series of site-specific installations along the edge of the regeneration. It forms a network of the communal spaces that responds to a diverse local context, acting as a platform for interaction. Rather than a fixed object, it serves as a tool to bridge the permanent and transient residents through collections of experimental communal spaces. The video currently shown is captured on last Saturday, while 3 residents set up a slope for kids to climb and play with each other during morning time. It only occupied a corner of the net. This form is actually not one of the design in that user guide. They designed this lifted playground by simply pulling down 5 points of net grid. Then, obviously, they left, before the lunchtime. The pavilion will reset to default mode if there is no one using for 1 hour. In the afternoon, it gets more crowded. They woke up from drunk and headed to the park, resting and chatting with each other about the interesting story from the pubs that they went to last night in Vauxhall. It's a pretty sunny day. The crowd hasn't dissipated, even it was getting dark. Of course, it continues in the evening. It's Saturday. They form a shelter for the party and a backdrop for the film screening. Kids just finished their dinner at home and joined the film watching, while the parents and the student from the student dormitory were chatting with each other on the other side of the curtain. The crowd gradually dissipated after 9 p.m. At the end of the day, it resets to its default mode.